A railroad bridge crossed Honey Creek not far from Kate Shelley's little Iowa farmhouse. Every day, trains sped back and forth over the trestle, heading east toward Chicago or west toward the long Des Moines River Bridge on the way to Salt Lake City. As they roared past, the trains brought a touch of excitement to 15-year-old Kate's life. Once, the railroad had been the Shelley family's main source of income. Kate's father, who died 3 years earlier, had been a section foreman on the Chicago and Northwestern Railway. Now, in 1881, the farm, a patch of pasture and timber set amid rugged hills in the heart of Iowa, supported the family. Good-natured, sturdy Kate had taken charge of the family because of her mother's poor health. She helped with the plowing and planting. With her 9-year-old sister Maine, she gathered firewood and tended the vegetable garden. She even taught herself to shoot, to keep the hawks away from the chickens. Kate saw the younger children, Margaret, Mame, and John, off to school in the morning and helped tuck them in at night. We're going to sing What's That Smell? A charming anthem of the beauties of education.
You can finish every chore, they'll just want to give you more.
Schools to sing, work without end on those the years who may depend.
Reading so the teacher says will give us secret powers, like knowing why the H is hard in how but not in ours.
Writing lets us share good news with people we can't see, but no one will pick up our clues if they don't learn to read.
Arithmetic is proven run by animal husbandry, 'cause anything was from those 1 and 1 mixed in.
4, 5, 6, school and farm work, more your be. That's what every grown-up thinks.
Well, school is like
For school is like those songs, for school is like those songs, for school is like the scone.
because school stinks.
Reading stinks like cow pens in the rain, all steaming hot.
Writing stinks like pig slop that's been too long in the pot.
Arithmetic stinks worse than any carcass in the world. School has all these odors, plus the very worst girls. One, two, three, four.
School and farm work, more your be. That's what every grown-up thinks.
Well, school is like
For school is like the songs, for school is like the songs, for school is like the farm. Because school stinks.
She kept them away from the dangerous banks of Honey Creek because none of them could swim. One brother, James, had drowned shortly after his father's death. Kate was the one who discovered his riderless horse beside the Des Moines River where the boy had been swept away while waiting. In moments between chores, Kate read every book she could lay her hands on to make up for her lack of schooling. Bill Grogan's Goat. The tune itself is a well-known folk song, but the counter melody is new.
Bill Grogan's goat was feeling fine after he had turned from up the line. Bill took a stick, gave him a whack, and tied him to the railroad track. That goat should get Bill Grogan's goat.
Kate loved to ride bareback through the forests in autumn, or row a skiff along the broad, smooth surface of the river in high summer. But the railroad was her real love. When errands took her to the little coal mining village of Moingona, a mile away, she would stop by the train station. She would linger in the waiting room with its pot-bellied stove and high-backed bench. Sometimes she would hear urgent tapping from behind the ticket window as news came over the telegraph wire, or as the station master sent word to distant stations to alert approaching trains of hazards. Let's do Heartbeat of the Rails. Adventure appealed to Kate. She was absolutely without fear, her sister Mame would recall later in life. But her adventures were confined to farm and family for the first 15 years of her life, until one July day in 1881. When the eastbound freight from Moingona near the Shelley farm on the afternoon of Wednesday, July 6, 1881, Kate and her mother were taking the wash off the clothesline. It had rained for most of a week, and now black clouds were heaping up on the horizon, threatening another storm. But Kate stopped pulling sheets, shifts, and stockings from the line long enough to watch engine 230 help a freight train climb the grade up to Honey Creek Bridge on its way to Boone, a town 5 miles distant. The freight train was late. Kate knew the schedules by heart, and she could recognize each of the local pushers. Number 230 was one, by its whistle. These 4 locomotives sat on side tracks until they were needed to help push or pull heavy trains up the steep slope. As Mrs. Shelley and Kate lifted the full laundry basket, the sky went dark, as if a black curtain had been flung across the sun. They barely reached the back door of the 2-story clapboard house before the first heavy raindrops began to fall. Soon, the deadly storm broke. You can only imagine what a fearful thing it is to see the heavens grow black and blacker until the light of day is all shut out, Kate later said. To see the clouds torn into fragments by the fierce lightnings and the torrents fall and swallow up the earth. Thunder rattled loose glass in the window frame, while fierce wind hurled sheets of rain against the house. Kate watched anxiously as Honey Creek's waters rose higher than she had ever seen them. She soon began to fear for the safety of the animals in the barn on the slope below the house. Putting on an old coat and hat, she hurried to the barn through the ankle-deep water gushing down the hillside. The water was just as deep inside. The plow horses, cattle, and hogs were splashing nervously in their stalls and pens. Kate led each of them to higher ground in an oat field, then turned them loose. By the time she returned to the barn for a last look around, the water had grown knee-deep. Hearing a terrified squealing, Kate discovered several piglets that had climbed onto an island of hay. She carried them to the safety of the oat field and tucked them under the sow. Then, drenched and chilled, she ran back to the house. As she dried off by the kitchen stove, Kate heard the frightening noise of trees being uprooted by the gale. The younger children were fed and put to bed, but the effort did not take Kate's mind off raging Honey Creek. With every lull in the downpour, Kate saw picket fences, parts of walls, even small trees pile up against the straining supports of the trestle over the brimming stream. As Kate noted the passing hours, she began to worry about the Midnight Express. Surely no trains will be dispatched in this storm, Margaret Shelley said to soothe her daughter. It was well past 11 o'clock when Kate clearly heard the rumble of a pusher engine climbing the grade to Honey Creek Bridge. She heard its bell clang twice. Then there was a dreadful crash, followed by an awful hiss of steam as high metal hit cold water. "Oh, Mother," cried Kate, clutching Margaret's hand. "It's number 11. They've gone down Honey Creek Bridge." For a moment, the two stared at each other in horror, while Mame, awakened by the sound, huddled in the kitchen door. Then Kate reached for her damp coat and soggy straw hat hanging beside the stove. "I must go to help the men," Kate said. Mrs. Shelley begged her not to go, but Kate insisted. "If that were Father down there," she said, "we'd expect someone to help him." Then, mindful of a graver danger, she asked, "And I must stop the midnight train from the west. I am